It is so good to be here with you today. My name is Mr. Gravy, and today I have a very special video for you in the hopes of starting a new series where I can sit down with MLB The Show's top content creators and top competitors. Today I'm sitting with someone who does it all, with amazing content on YouTube to heart-pounding competitive games on Twitch, arguably the most humble and down-to-earth top player you can find, none other than CBrev. How are you, my friend? And how's this crazy 2020 been treating you?
I'm great, dude. 2020 has been interesting, especially in real life with work and stuff. I think it's been an adjustment period for everyone, but that's why we escaped to video games, right?
Absolutely. So have you find that you're working remotely now, or how's that working for you?
Yeah, everything was from home. So I work at a college. Everything for spring semester was done from home, which was very difficult.
That's quite an adjustment, I'm sure. So talking about, I want people to get a real grip on how good you are. So I pulled up your Twitch here where you have all your accolades and stuff like that. I'm sure you have more because you're not probably posting everything, but let's just look at 2019 for a second. You made top 58 different times on multiple accounts. You made World Series 21 times, and you won the Firm Summer Invitational. You won the Movember Classic, the 2019 All-Team Tourney 2, and then just recently you took away the ESL Qualifier number 1. How does this not all go to your head?
It's just a lot of humility from real life. Like, at the end of the day, you just got to understand it's a video game, and I've been through too much in real life to think that I'm an amazing person because I win virtual baseball games a lot. So
yeah, there's a bit of a stigma, especially on like Reddit, and sometimes Twitter can get a little toxic, that people just, I don't know if it's an envious thing, but people just think, oh, well, this guy, he must be the most arrogant guy in the whole world. And I just really don't think that's true. And that's kind of the part of the reason why we wanted to do these interviews, was to really kind of show that there's a person behind all this. So I'm curious, did you play baseball in real life?
yeah, I played through high school up until like sophomore year of high school. Actually, I got cut, but
got cut? No.
yeah, I'm basically Michael Jordan now. So
okay, that's a good comp. Yeah,
humility is what we need in here.
So what did you play? Did you pitch? Did you hit? What were you?
I played center field because I was really fast and had no arm whatsoever. So.
Okay, right on. Do you find that the real life approaches that you learned, do those transfer to game for you, or not really?
Not really, because I was in high school so long ago, and a lot of my philosophy with hitting didn't develop until after high school, which is kind of weird to think about. Basically, my whole approach came from the game, not from real life, because I was already an adult when I started playing MLB The Show.
Okay, right on. That's pretty cool. What's your favorite team?
Oakland A's.
Oakland A's. So I saw on Twitter somebody had posted, how are you an Oakland A's fan when you're from Denver? So go ahead and answer that one.
So my uncle's a huge Raiders fan, and the only sport he cares about is football. So I kind of just picked up the A's because they're the same city. That's really the only reason.
Sure. So with this game right now, I think most people can agree that the content of this year has been fantastic, from the minor league cards that came out to all this other stuff. But what do you feel about the actual gameplay side? I think most people can agree the content's good, but what's your thoughts on the actual gameplay this year?
The gameplay's okay. I mean, it's a sports game. It's really hard to get perfect real life gameplay in any sports game. And there's also a factor of like, you have to make the game enjoyable for everyone. So I think that's a big deal. Like, as top players, kind of get frustrated when we're squaring up ball after ball and not getting results. But it kind of like, nobody wants to queue into ranked and give up 30 runs, right? So there has to be some kind of restriction there, I think.
I think that's a good point, because if it was only ever put on input, then you would have like yourself and other guys that are really, really good. They would put up 30, 40 runs each game, and then it just wouldn't be a real competitive game. So I get that there, but I also understand people who are upset with the dice roll factors and all that jazz, but it is what it is. With being a top 50 player, how many times have you made it this year already? Because you have like how many alt accounts do you have? 9,000 alts? Or what's the deal here?
It's over 9,000.
Over 9,000. It's incredible. So top 50, how many times have you made it this year?
I've actually only made it once this year. I made it the first season so that my YouTube titles weren't clickbait, and then I've been focusing on content this year mostly. Yeah. I had kind of a coming to Jesus moment the first season when I grinded for it, which is ironic because that's the season I actually made it. But I just realized that you're the only person on earth that cares how many times you've made top 50. 50. So I'd
That's
rather spend my time making content. Like, it's nice to have the accolades so then people have a reason to watch me, but with where I'm at with my content now, it's just way smarter to spend time doing that instead of, playing 50, 60, 70 ranked games in one season just to get another star on my nameplate.
So let's talk about that for a little bit. Your content side of things this year, I think your YouTube channel last I looked had about 2.6 thousand subs or so on it. But you didn't start with MLB content, is that right?
No, I started with Madden quite a few years ago.
What caused the switch? Is football your favorite sport, or?
So I was really good at Madden too. Back when I was playing, I was probably top 100 in the country, I would say. And I just really fell out of love with the game. And baseball's always been my favorite sport. So I picked up a PlayStation and picked up MLB The Show in 15 and played it casually. And then I started just playing it full time, if you can call that.
So with your content, you started off really strong this year doing a lot of card reviews. And then those started to go away towards more of the helping other people get better. So can you talk about that transition a little bit?
Yeah, card reviews were something I did a lot last year because I was really small and I needed a niche because it's really hard to get discovered if you don't do something unique on YouTube. But now that I have somewhat of a following, really why I started YouTube or why I do content creation in general is just to help people out. When I did Madden, it was the same thing. It was like tips, like good plays to run and stuff like that. So plus that stuff has been getting significantly more views. The card reviews actually aren't doing well this year. And I think that's a factor of the content being so good. Like, cards get outdated really fast this year.
And they're all really good. A lot of these cards that have came out are just good.
Yeah.
And so it's like every card review, it's like, well, I like this guy. Well, I like this guy. Oh, I like this guy. So it can be a little bit tough to be variety on that. I get that. But when it comes to content and being a top player and, making sure you're still at the height of your game while also putting out content, what is that like? Like, are you constantly balancing between that? How much work are you really putting in?
For my content, I'm probably doing 20 to 30 hours a week to get everything out.
That's amazing. That's basically a job. By the way, if you're for some reason not subscribed to CBrev, I'll have his links in the description below, along with his Twitch and everything that you could possibly want to connect with him. But keep going with that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's your usual YouTube stuff. I still have a job, obviously, as well. But yeah, it's it's a lot of work. I don't play as much as I would like to. If I spent all the time I do making content into playing the game, I would probably have way more games played.
Do you find that you lose some of the fun out of the game by doing all this content, or is it more fun to do the content?
That's a good question. I think it depends on the day. I'm a big day-to-day person.
That's fair.
Sometimes I'm like super jacked to do content and like I want to bust out 20 videos in a day, which obviously is impossible, but that's how I feel. And then sometimes I just want to get on and like play ranked with no one watching or something. Overall, I think it helps, especially early in the year. Pretty much 100% of the time I was on the game, it was for making content just because, how the gameplay was earlier. But for the most part, the content drives me to play more, I would say.
So for people who are just the average player, is there a special secret to being a top 50 player, or is it just the reps and consistency that eventually leads you to be that good of a player?
Well, it's just like getting good at anything. There's reps and consistency and playing a lot, but there's also like introspection and improvement, right? So you have to understand your weaknesses, what you're doing poorly, and attempt to fix them over time, just gradual improvements going upward sloping throughout the time that you're playing. And it's as cliche as it is, nothing happens overnight that's successful, right? I've been playing since 15. So even the little things like putting the PCI on ball is just, I've had 5 years of reps of that and a lot of people have not. So it's a grind.
Yeah, the grind is a great way to put it. And, speaking of that, back in the old days with the 15, 16, 17 particularly, I had originally met you in an online franchise, part of the trade group that denied every one of your trades. This guy comes in, okay, let me just tell you real quick. This guy comes in, okay, he's a great player, immediately comes in, starts crushing everybody, and then makes a billion trades to make himself better. And so the admin group's scared. They're like, no, deny. Well, eventually CBrev gets frustrated and leaves. I can't blame him at all for that. So do you at all, did you enjoy the online franchise part of things? Do you miss that at all? I know custom leagues is, that's just kind of a throwaway mode.
Yeah, online franchise is great. I wish we had it still. I mean, like you said, we have custom leagues, which is a little different. It just sucks because it's so hard to get a league where everyone participates all the time. But like if you could get 30 people that were always playing every game, it would be an amazing experience. And as far as 17 goes, I was a much different person in 2017, and that was probably one of my darkest years in recent memory. So a lot of my personal validation came from being good at MLB The Show because it's really all I had. had. And so that's why I was a little more emotional, I would say, in 2017.
Well, there's something real to that, though. I mean, there really is. So, there's something that you definitely can't be faulted. So anyway, let's move on to the ESL tournament. You just recently won that. That was an incredible journey. My God, I couldn't stay up for it all, but man, the parts I got to watch, it was just an absolute blast. So what were your expectations when you went into that tournament?
So I actually wasn't even going to play this weekend. It was my mom's birthday weekend. And so it was on Sunday. So I was like, I'll play on Saturday and see how it is. Because I wanted to learn how it worked, like if pitcher energy reset, how the drafting works, stuff like that. I ended up going 6-0 on Saturday. And then my mom was like, let's just do lunch instead of dinner so you can play.
Big
and
pogs.
then, yeah, it was huge pogs. And then I ended up just going on a run on Sunday.
Yeah, quite the run indeed. They originally had really talked about everything being Hall of Fame and the settings that we're going to have perfect umpires, so on and so forth. So when you drafted your team, were you drafting in the idea that this was going to be on Hall of Fame? Or did you already have an idea that this could be wrong and that you should be drafting for a legend gameplay?
Actually, both days I was drafting for Hall of Fame because it was initially supposed to be on Hall of Fame, and then I thought they'd fix it from Saturday to Sunday. It's not a huge deal. I mean, the difference between Hall of Fame and Legend is big, but as far as like a tournament setting, it doesn't really change your draft approach because I went pitching heavy anyways, and so going pitcher heavy isn't really better or worse whether it's on Hall of Fame or Legend. It's more of just a gameplay theoretical approach, I guess you could say.
Sure. So when you talk about going pitching heavy first, is your focus when you're out there to have good bullpen so that you can get a good starter come in, get that first shutdown inning, and then you feel like your hitting's good enough where you can just hit with anybody? Is that the idea for you?
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes into it. The biggest deal is in the tournament, pitcher energy resets every game. So if you take a diamond starter, if you take a diamond reliever, that guy's throwing every single game for at least an inning. And the games are only 3 innings, so if you go double diamond, that's 2 of your 3 innings at least. And that's a lot of the people that I ran into towards the end, like the guy I played in the championship had 97 Chapman and 96 Raleigh.
Ooh.
So it was very hard to hit. But yeah, there's the factor of I think I'm good enough to hit with silvers and bronzes too. But also if you take a diamond offensive player, a diamond hitter, they're only getting 1, 2, maybe 3 at bats a game, whereas the pitcher is throwing a majority of the game. I think the only way I would take a diamond hitter is if they're just like crazy defensively, maybe someone like obviously 99 Mickey Mantle. But overall, I think pitching is the move. And there's a lot of silvers that have really good swings that can go deep if you connect. So that's kind of why I kind of went pitching heavy. But the main reason was because pitcher energy resets every game, which is just really, really good for diamond pitching.
Now, in the 3-game series, though, you had to manage the stamina a little bit better, right?
Nope, every game was reset.
Oh, wow. Okay. It seems like a touch of an oversight, but whatever. That's fine.
Yeah.
There were all
so
sorts
like,
of oversights on this tournament.
So in the round of 16, I played a best of 3 that went to 3 games, and the guy had 97 Chapman that threw all 3 games. And then in the round of 8, I played Darius, who also had Chapman. So I ended up playing 7 games in a row hitting against Chapman.
Darius, who is the real Tap Scott, by the way, for those of you who don't know. You were playing him. That's a good segue. You were playing him in the second day, and I heard you talking about how he knows you very well. So he was attacking the zone, and that was the only game where you actually had to change your hitting approach. Does that mean that you were basically going through this tournament with the idea of, I want the other guy to throw as many pitches as possible? It's hard to locate the corners, and I want to get walks so that when he leaves one fat over the plate, I've got 3 runs right on the board right away. Was that the idea there?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's generally my approach. The only reason I switch it up on Darius is because, like I said, he knows me. And that's something I have to do a lot when I'm grinding top 50, because a lot of the top 50 players know that I'm trying to walk and work the count and stuff. So they just come right at me. So that's when I have to be a lot more aggressive. But as far as the tournament play, given that it's on a 3-inning game, pitcher energy is a much bigger deal. Like a patient approach is such a big deal in a 3-inning game because a guy can get in yellow energy in like 10 pitches. So the more pitches you see, the better. Obviously, if you get walks, that's fine. But really, my game plan was just to get their best pitchers out of the game or get them to a point where they were low energy and either didn't notice or felt like they just had to ride the wave anyway. And then I could, when my PCI started growing, I could try to attack that way.
That's a good point. That happens to me quite a bit too, and I'm sure the average player can relate to that. When you've got your best guy on the mound and he starts to go into that yellow-red, you just feel like, I don't know if there's a better option. I should just go for it. And that's when you give up the 2, 3, 4 runs. Is that something that you're very keen to when you're playing, and that you're quick on those changes?
Yeah, I usually have a pretty quick hook for guys, especially in that tournament setting. Like some of the semifinal games, I didn't even use Dustin May because he was just hitting him too hard. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just a tough call, just like real life baseball. Like, and again, especially in the tournament, do you want to take out your yellow energy Chapman for a silver reliever? Like, what's the best play there? So it's tough.
What would you say was your biggest takeaway from the tournament, whether positive or negative?
My biggest takeaway is that it needs to be run better. There's a big communication issue, and there has been since last year with ESL, and I think it's because they're subcontracted with SDS. Like MLB is not their game, and so they don't really know about it.
Sure.
The rules on paper were much better this year, although it's still not perfect, but the execution every single tournament has been awful.
Do you think that the tournaments would play better on Hall of Fame, or do you like the Legend difficulty for it?
No, I think Hall of Fame's good. I mean, Legend difficulties for me is the best because I play on it all the time.
Of course.
And some people have never played on it, which you saw a lot day one. People just couldn't hit anything because they'd never seen Legend before. But Hall of Fame's good. You always want the potential of an underdog to start to make a run. So the lower the difficulty, the better. Obviously, All-Star would be a nightmare, but I think Hall of Fame's a good sweet spot.
There was a big thing that happened during the ESL tournament, which got quite a bit of attention, particularly from your friend Kyle, who dealt with it personally. I know you had a lot of strong thoughts on it. There was an unfortunate player in the tournament who made it very far, who figured out that if you up the sliders in the game, which I'm only saying this now because if this isn't patched, then I don't know what to say. But you were able to go to the sliders, up them. He had the highest pitch speeds possible, and more or less he was cheating. So what were your thoughts on the whole cheating scandal?
I mean, obviously it's awful. This has actually been a thing since last year. Sliders have affected friendlies / tournament games since last year, and they haven't fixed it. There was some community run tournaments that had what was coined a slider gate at the time because someone had their sliders up in the tournament game. And ironically, he lost to Kyle in that tournament, which is hilarious because Kyle got hit again. Seems like he's always the one getting cheated. But yeah, man, it's dumb. And you could tell, like, you can go watch the clip on Kyle's stream. It's very obvious that his fastball pitch speed's all the way up. Like, it's impossibly fast. And he had 99 Kluber as part of his draft. And so he only had the fastball slider up, and he was pretty much only throwing sinker, cutter, four seam with Kluber. So he knew because he was only throwing fastball pitches. So it's awful. They said they patched it. They just put out a patch that said they fixed it before today. So hopefully that works.
There we go. Perfect. That's fantastic news. So, but yeah, I'll link that. I'll put that clip in the description as well. It was pretty egregious, and the guy played victim. You hate to see that stuff in our community. It's just a shame. So do you feel like the MLB community, competitive community has its legs yet? Do you think it's something that can actually form into something formidable such as Madden and NBA have?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's a four major sport, so there's always potential for that. Granted, baseball is typically the least popular of the four. But yeah, I mean, this is a good groundwork. I think it's a good segue year before it goes cross-platform. Yeah, there's potential for esports. There just needs to be a little bit of an adjustment on how things are run.
That's a good point on the cross-platform side of things, too. Are you excited to have the Xbox players and I don't know about PC players, but are you excited to have the cross-platform?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who just don't play the show because it's PS4 exclusive. It'll be good. I actually don't think it'll affect the competitive community too much. I think it'll be an influx of casuals, so to speak, but it'll be great for the game. I mean, when SDS has more money, in theory, our game gets better. So I think that's shown this year too with how good the content is, with the new legends that they've been able to get and stuff. That's definitely a product of the game growing a lot. So I'm happy about it.
Do you feel like the developers listen to the top players and their feedback?
Not really. I think the developers listen to feedback for sure, but I think they listen to feedback of everyone. So the top players are a very small community, so not really, no.
Well, yeah, and I guess when you think about it, it would be a little bit hard to cater it just to the top players. Absolutely, I do get that, but just curious to know if you thought they were actually listening to you.
Yeah, and I was going to say that too. Like, I don't even know if it's a good business practice to listen to the top players because it might make the game miserable for everyone else.
And they didn't sign up for hardcore MLB. They just signed up for MLB The Show.
Yeah.
I want to get to some of the questions that the community had, which it wasn't a ton that I could find, but I got some that I thought were pretty good. Do you have a routine when you get ready for tournaments and for things like that, or do you just kind of go balls in?
When I play just normal ranked or whatever, I don't warm up at all. I just jump in because you got time. But for a tournament, I usually go to custom practice and hit a little bit. I play on legend in the practice. I don't turn the sliders up. I think having the sliders all the way up makes me hit worse because it's just unreasonably fast.
Okay.
And then I usually try a left on left matchup like for ESL. It's just in between games hitting Matt Olson versus Chapman, which worked out because I faced Chapman for 1,000 games in the tournament. So
yeah, that Chapman's disgusting, by the way. That new Chapman is absolutely filthy.
yeah, he's insane, especially when your whole lineup is silvers and bronzes.
To be a consistent top player in the game, somebody asked what the workload was like. And I think what they mean by that is this something that you have to sit there and hone your craft at every single day all the time? Or is this something that part of it is natural, part of it is skill, and then part of it is I do put in some work?
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, if you're talking like a World Series grind or a top 50 grind or just playing in general, can you clarify the question a little more?
Being a top consistent player, to be able to beat guys like your friend Kyle or beat those big time players, is it something that you have to work at every single day, or is it something that sort of kind of comes naturally for you?
It's a little bit of both. Like I said, I've been playing for 5 years, which is definitely an advantage. I find that if I'm playing competitively, quote unquote try hard every single day, I actually play worse over time.
Okay.
So I usually try to play a minimal amount of games. Like I said, I haven't been grinding top 50 much this year, but going back to last year, I would play like 3 games, take a break, play 3 games, take a break, or take a couple days off. And really, that's my approach because a lot of the reason why I'm good isn't mechanical skill. As far as like putting PCI on ball, I'm definitely nowhere near the best in the world at that. But a lot of why I win is just consistency game to game and my approach and stuff like that. So taking time off does make your mechanics worse, but it's not as big a deal for me. So yeah, I take days off all the time. Even when I was grinding top 50, I would maybe only play like 10 out of the 30 days of the season or something like that.
Interesting. What you're basically saying too is when you take those breaks, it allows your mental to reset, because the more you play, sometimes the more it gets on you and the more frustrating it can get, and it's hard to get out of ruts.
Yeah, and you mentioned frustrating. Tilt's a real thing that you want to avoid for sure in any leaderboard grind of any game. But I always say that the person who wins most of the time in MLB The Show is the person that takes the least amount of bad at bats. And so just by taking breaks, you're avoiding throwing away at bats, because even throwing away 1 or 2 at bats in a close game could decide it, right? And those could be in the 3rd inning. So you never really know. So yeah, I don't play a ton. I don't play all the time just because I find myself, if I get into like a 4, 5, 6 hour grind, I start taking a lot more bad at bats, and those can really cost you over time.
So yeah, you heard it right here. If you're kind of new to the game, or if you're somebody who's in between and you're not able to take that next step, that's the key right there. You've got to have good at bats, at bat in, at bat out. And if you're not in a position where you can mentally do that right now, then yeah, take a break. Just take a day off, anything you need to do to reset. That's a really good tip. I really, really like that. So CBrev, I mean, what else do you just only play MLB? What other games do you play?
I'm addicted to WoW Classic. My name's CBrev. I'm a WoW Classic addict.
Okay, be sure to add him, CBrev, on WoW Classic. Perfect. I'm more of an old school RuneScape guy, so that's kind of funny. We're like dead opposite as far as that goes.
Same thing, kind of, right? The
I mean,
nostalgia
really
train.
Oh yeah, dude, it's all about the nostalgia. I love it. So the last question I have for you is one that I had multiple times. So someone clearly really wants to know this. What's your favorite WoW class and why?
I play Shaman just because that's what I've always played, I guess. I like healing. I know you probably have no clue what I'm talking about.
No,
Gravy.
dude, I do. I'm big into MMOs and stuff. I'm a total nerd outside of baseball, so I get
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shaman is my class. That's also the first class I got a golden hero of in Hearthstone. Weird flex, but okay.
Weird flex, but okay.
No, I just like the aesthetics of them. Controlling the elements, all that stuff's really cool. So.
Hell yeah. Okay, well, hey, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time today and getting your insight and getting just to pick your brain a little bit. Make sure you guys check out his channel. He does a lot of inside the minds of CBrev, where he really walks through each one of his games. That's one of the best videos out there to get better at the game. He's got a whole line of those. Link in the description below. CBrev, I just want to thank you so much for coming out here. If you guys like this video, obviously leave a thumbs up, but make sure you reach out to your other top favorite content producers, Twitch streamers, whatever. Let them know that I do these interviews, and I'd like to make a whole thing out of this. Once again, CBrev, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.